this quite the gathering of Horde leaders? What brings you to my humble abode, loyal allies?
Dark Lady, we've been discussing this matter very seriously, and we feel like we can stand it no longer. Some of your decisions of late have been cruel, heartless, and... well, look, I don't want to say evil.
You can say evil.
Okay, fine. Some of your decisions have been flat out evil, and we, leaders of the Horde, have come to warn you. We believe you to be under the influence of a dark power.
Look, how many times do I have to tell you? I don't know anything about N'Zoth, okay? I've never even met him.
No, not N'Zoth, my lady, but Trade Prince Kotick.
What? This is outrageous! What have I ever done?
We believe him to be a bad influence on your decision-making, War Chief.
A bad influence? Listen, bud, I have made nothing but pure profit for the Horde side since I've been here, okay? Remember when we sold all the PvP vendors in Orgrimmar and how much moolah we made from that deal?
But now we have no PvP vendors.
A minor detail. And hey, who let the pander into the Horde leader meeting anyway?
My lady, we are also worried about the new Azeroth market.
Hey, whoa, back off, bud. We are making some big margins on that Azeroth, okay?
It is literally the soul of Azeroth.
So we're selling an itty-witty teeny bit of the soul of the whole world. There's plenty of souls to go round. Is no one thinking of the shareholders in all of this?
And Kotick keeps most of the money himself anyway.
Is this true, Kotick?
Well, yeah, I mean, I keep most of the money, but I do most of the work.
You don't do any of the work.
I count the monies. That's hard work, okay? Because there's a lot of monies. Hey, you know what? You're fired, Panda Boy. Get out of here.
War Chief, what will you do about all of this?
Hey, where you all going? Hey, you know what? Fine. I don't need yous all anyway. I still got all the cash. I got all the monies. I don't need no Horde anyway. Just the lovely, lovely money.
Knowledge is power.
Hello Internet, and welcome back to another weekly reset, Taliesin and Evitel's Wondrous Wisdomshow, and I promise that we do have plenty of in-game WoW news to report on this week, like more additions to the new allied races. Oh, we got singing, we've got dancing, new achievement mounts, the really cool loot table for Covenant of Storms mini-raid, and a sneak peek at some other secrets coming our way too. But we have to start, I'm afraid, with that big... well, I guess you'd have to call it business news, really, wouldn't you? We promised last week, when reports first started circulating about imminent redundancies at Activision Blizzard, that we would talk about them more when we had more concrete details to discuss. And here we are. Because now we know that during the latest earnings call, it was announced that the company would indeed be laying off 8% of its entire workforce, making around 800 people unemployed, in many cases effective immediately. And truth be told, I'm still really uncomfortable talking about this even now, because we started this channel and this show because we like talking about a game, you know, and this shit is no game. This is real life people losing their real life jobs and livelihoods, and it seems a bit weird, a bit crass to me to essentially be making money out of that misery by giving a hot take about it on a stupid YouTube segment. A hot take that I'm sure no one needs by now, because there are channels that have already produced 3 or 4 videos on this, and that's cool. Everyone has their own way of doing things, but I have to admit, there's times like these that make me very glad that we have a weekly show to wait for, so that we don't have to react in the moment, instead having a couple of days to reflect and gather our thoughts into, hopefully, a more considered response than anything we'd have managed when emotions were still raw and hot, because make no mistake, emotions were raw. In terms of human beings, this news is just the absolute worst. And as the severity of it began to sink in on Tuesday night, and details began to emerge on Twitter about not just the sheer numbers involved, but also the relatively high profile of some of the casualties, it was impossible not to feel absolutely furious about the whole situation, especially as simultaneous reports of Activision Blizzard's record profits for the year were also being made public, which didn't so much feel like rubbing salt into the wound as flat out taking the piss being full of salt because you ate all the salt instead of rubbing it into the wound, and now you are pissing into the wound. You were taking a salty piss into the wound. And it was this comic book level villain ridiculousness of the guys at the top giving themselves big fat bonuses while laying off hundreds of the people that made it all possible that it's so rage-inducing. And if that's you, if you are angry, then good, because you are right to be upset by the events of this week, and we will certainly indulge that anger in this segment, don't you worry. But I want to also reiterate something that has become a bit of a mantra on this channel recently. Criticism is good, but it has to be the right criticism. It has to be accurate criticism, because predictably, another thing that we've seen a lot this week is people, purposely or not, using the fallout of this genuine human misery to try and prove correlation between agendas or points that aren't relevant, and that is not going to help anyone. So let's take a look at the exact details as they happened very, very quickly. On Tuesday, Activision Blizzard announced they are cutting some 8% of the workforce across the board. Now that means Activision Publishing, King, who obviously make Candy Crush, subsidiary studios like Moon, who make Ori and the Blind Forest, and the one this particular show is obviously most concerned with, Blizzard Entertainment. It seems that as far as Blizzard are concerned, the job losses have so far only occurred in IT and publishing departments. So that means marketing, esports, community management, and QA, with development roles pretty much untouched. I know, I think it's stupid that QA isn't classed as development either, but there you go. In fact, during the same earnings call that these redundancies were announced, alongside the company's record year, it was also stated that development teams across the biggest titles, which includes World of Warcraft, would actually be growing by 20%. It has transpired that many workers were actually told about their redundancies a week or so earlier and were under non-disclosure agreements related to their severances packages, but plenty of staff were not told until Tuesday that they wouldn't have a job to come to on Wednesday. At least that's in the US. In the European offices, who proportionately are set for much bigger losses, seeing as they are almost entirely community and marketing based, most employees still don't know if they are the victims of this wave of job losses or not, as complex employment laws kick in, which will undoubtedly give those laid off employees a better deal in the long run, but just adds to the torture in the here and now. And this behaviour from a multinational company at the same time as posting billions of profit is always going to feel heartless. It's always going to feel greedy, and it's always going to feel soulless. And that's because it is. The severance packages that full-time permanent senior employees will receive are reportedly okay, but a lot of those affected are juniors or otherwise for some reason not classed as permanent, and they don't have that kind of safety net. And that means people who I personally count as friends have lost their jobs, and that makes me incredibly angry, which is one of the reasons that I went off on one on Twitch this week. So what I'm about to say next is in no way, shape or form a defense of any of this shit, okay? I just want to make sure that if you are angry, which is good, then you are angry about the right things, because what is this story not? This is not unusual. It's not unusual for Activision Blizzard, who laid off 600 staff in 2012, a proportionately 50% larger round of job cuts than this. But it's also not unusual in the game industry as a whole. Even if you only half follow industry news, you'll know hardly a month goes by without huge and sudden job losses just like this across any number of studios, whether they be restructuring like Blizzard, going bust, or more likely just straight up sacking most of the team working on a particular game after that game has shit. Well over 1,000 game development jobs were lost in 2018. Game studio employment fluctuates depending on development cycles, and game devs routinely are forced to relocate all over the country multiple times during a career. And it's not unusual in American corporate culture overall, because we might find Bobby Kotick's take-home pay of approximately $12 gazillion. I think that's right. I think it was 12 gazillion, give or take a couple of illion, something like that. Incredibly crass in the wake of these job cuts, and it is. But perhaps even worse, it's not unusually crass. It happens all the time. And here's what else this is not. This is not Blizzard failing. As much as we'd all love to be able to nod sagely and say, well, this is what happens when you dick with me, the gamer, by announcing mobile titles I don't like or having gay characters, this is Blizzard doing well. For all the talk for months of the company dying and stock prices plummeting and games not getting good receptions and God help us Blizz getting woke and going broke as a result, that is all bullshit. ActiBlizz have had a record year and they are still laying off 800 staff. This has nothing to do with people voting with their wallets or Blizz going through tough times. These people losing their jobs isn't because something has gone wrong or badly. This is the system working as intended. And the thing is, if this isn't unusual behavior for ActiBlizz, and it's not unusual behavior for the games industry, and it's not unusual behavior for corporations in general, the problem is not Activision Blizzard. It's much bigger than that. Like I say, please be angry about this. You should be, but get your criticism right and keep it accurate. Because if you really are angry about these people losing their jobs, there's no point blaming store mounts, or Azerite armor, or Jaina's vest, or Overwatch's wokeness. Blame a shit employment culture in the US. And if you really want to stop this happening again, it's not going to be stopped by WoW not catering to casuals suddenly, or making the game more like Classic, or PvP vendors, or classes being exactly what you want them to be, or Ian listening more to the community. They will be fixed by proper unionization and legal protections for workers, which are encouraged and supported by consumers, and that means you. Gamers unite has been a phrase that we've heard a lot of in the past year, and you know what? I completely agree. Here I am, throwing my hat into the Gamers Unite ring with you now, but how about we unite against some shit that actually matters? How about we unite to demand that the video game industry, so many of us form our identities around, implement proper unions and protections? How about we get angry about that instead of not seeing as much of Jaina's tits? How about if we really care about people who work in community management losing their job, we don't go losing our shit and demand that people in community management lose their job when they say something a bit sassy in a blue post or on their own personal Twitter? But I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Taliesin, when I say gamers unite, I'm not talking about unions, that's evil socialism. To which I say, no, you don't get to say collectivism is wrong and then call your movement Gamers Unite, okay? And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Taliesin, I'm more concerned with consumer rights, which actually is fair enough. But in that case, A, stop trying to co-opt this genuinely sad news to score points for your own agenda, and B, let's educate ourselves on consumer rights, okay? Because a store mount isn't endangering your consumer rights. You finding a game boring or shit is not endangering your consumer rights. Some characters or storylines or general outlooks being a bit SJW for your tastes is not endangering your consumer rights. Ian giving not a single shit about seriously anything you say is not endangering your consumer rights. Paid loot boxes with unknown drop chances for their contents. That's a consumer rights issue right there, I totally agree, but it's quite hard to take anyone's distaste for those particularly seriously when they're currently all creaming over Apex, which is published by E-shitting-A, and which is stuffed full of paid loot boxes. And yes, I know, it's a free-to-play game, but either paid randomized boxes with secret drop chances are a consumer rights issue, or they're not, okay? Otherwise, it's just a business model that you don't like. And hey man, I love Apex, alright? Apex is great, but you know what all this makes me think? It makes me think that actually we're willing to forgive pretty much any kind of shitty corporate behaviour at all, as long as we have some good games to play. It's a pretty safe bet that one of the reasons there wasn't this uproar in 2012 when Blizzard cut 13% of its staff was because everyone then was excited about the upcoming Diablo 3. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Taliesin, that's exactly it, isn't it? Where are the good games? It's all mobile and China and all this is connected, which is another thing that this is not. If you are one of those voices that decries the company that Blizzard used to be, if you recently got all teary-eyed about that old recruitment video that's been doing the rounds, which incidentally came out 2 years after they sacked 30% of their workforce, but before the money men and before the marketing was more important than the games, then there's an argument that this restructuring is what you're advocating. Because it's the marketing departments that are being gutted. The dev teams are being expanded. The people who sell the games just got laid off. The amount of people that make the games are being increased. Apart from the hundreds of job listings Blizz has up for developers for unannounced titles, World of Warcraft's devs team will reportedly be increased by 20% in this restructuring. Less selling, more making. Isn't that what you wanted? And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but Taliesin, doesn't matter how many devs you've got if the games turn out terrible. And look at all the pressure that Activision is putting Blizzard under to rush games out before they're ready. Look at BfA. And I say, is there really any evidence of that? Because even if I agree that BfA was in a bit of a state when it released, and I definitely would agree that Azerite Armor's failure hasn't helped that feeling, but if the expansion was rushed, I'm certain it had more to do with Team 2 not wanting to repeat the extended lull at the end of Mists and WoD before the new expansion, which seems pretty likely since that no content droughts no matter what okay attitude was pretty much the theme of Legion as much as edgelord glowing tattoos were. But to put it even more simply, if Activision really are pressuring Blizzard to put out stuff before it's ready, quantity over quality, why haven't Blizzard released a game since 2016? Why will they not be releasing a new title in 2019? Why have they been allowed to restart development on Diablo 4 at least once and not be forced into announcing it at BlizzCon? BlizzCon this year. For all of us nostalgic romantics, there being no new game for 4 years is pretty much the definition of the Blizzard way, isn't it? And to repeat, because I know I have to repeat this, I'm not saying you shouldn't be angry about the job losses and how they were carried out. You absolutely should be. I'm begging you to be angry about them, in fact, but it's important that we criticize the right things accurately and not distort the point by trying to shoehorn in an agenda. Because you might be angry about these layoffs, and you might be angry about the state of WoW, but even if the game was everything you want it to be, even if you played it every day and were having more fun than you'd ever had in your life, this would still have happened. And if you are so disgusted by Bobby Kotick's pay and Activision's blatant disregard for their employees that you can't face playing this game anymore, then actually I'm kind of on your side. That is a perfectly legitimate reason not to play a video game. But I also think any reason is a perfectly legitimate reason not to play a video game. It's just a video game. You may not want to play WoW because you find it really boring. That's just as cool too. You're not wrong to stop playing a video game if you think it's boring. I recommend you do, but there is not the cause and effect here that some people really want there to be. So here's my problem. I've made it pretty clear in this video and throughout the week that I find Blizzard's behavior to be quite reprehensible in this instance, so how can I continue to play the game with a good conscience? Well, the simple answer is that I like playing the game. It's the exact same reason that I can play Apex even though it's made by E-shitting-A. It's the same reason I can buy jeans and trainers even though I know they're probably not made in especially nice conditions. So I guess the simple answer is I'm kind of selfish. There is a not so simple answer as well though. Do you remember what I was saying about the things you don't like about WoW and the behavior of Activision Blizzard being two different problems? Well, the good things about WoW are separate from those problems too. The reason it's so hard to see these people lose their jobs is precisely because of how dedicated they are, how much they love WoW, and how much they want it to be the best game it could be. That's true for the ones laid off, and it's true for those that remain. In almost 3 years making this channel, we've been lucky enough to meet a whole ton of people that work on WoW, and every single one of them, without exception, whether they design environments or systems or write music or novels or quests or make cinematics or voice characters or manage the community or organize events or post the sassiest memes on the official Twitter, every one of them has lived and breathed World of Warcraft, has played World of Warcraft just as much as me, has been excited about making new things for it, about giving us players new experiences. And for me at least, that shows in the game, and I genuinely look forward to logging in every day still. Bellilar brought up a good point in his recent video, one of his recent videos on one of his channels, about being careful as consumers that we don't form too much of our own identity around what are essentially consumer products that don't care about you like you care about them. And he's absolutely right. In fact, I'm going to include links to some other videos below that expand on that point if you're interested, because it's something that I'm actually fascinated by. And the interesting thing is, it works in both directions. For me, one of the strangest embodiments of the way that people invest in consumer products is how personally they take it when those products change or fall short of their expectations. It's why people get so angry when they don't like a Star Wars movie, because suddenly it's not just a movie that you don't love, it's a travesty, it's a conspiracy even. And furthermore, it's the fault of others who do like it that this thing that you chose to make part of your personality has been ruined. A prime example, how many times have you seen someone say, "You are the reason that WoW sucks" to other players on the forums? And it creates a mindset where it's not enough just to stop liking something, you have to believe that you were right to stop liking it because that thing is now bad or wrong. And of course, all of this identity consumerism is also great for attention and video clicks, so there's always going to be some creator telling you that the fact you don't like something is in itself proof that your identity is somehow under attack. But you know what? It's really not. Look, this has been really hard to make, and I hope I've managed to express just how sad the events of this week made me while still trying to keep some kind of perspective on things with regards to what it is that we're upset about, or that we say we're upset about. My friend and former Blizzard employee, Patrick Bejar, wrote a great article on this, which probably does a much better job than I do, to be honest, and we'll link that down below as well. And genuinely, Blizzard people, ex-Blizzard people, if you were affected by this and you're watching this video, give us a call. Let's play some video games together, yeah. And apologies to all of you watching. I promise that my bit next week will be really, really funny again, okay? You know, as funny as it usually is, whatever. Should we talk about the actual game now?
So, I'll be honest, it seems a little bit strange to go from that into looking at new PTR finds and cool mounts and stuff, and this week we might not spend quite so long here as we usually do as a result. If we can say anything good about it, I guess it would be that it has really brought the community together to focus on the important issues. With all this real-life drama going down, it made it very difficult to care about less meaningful things. So, for example, when Blizzard announced they were making changes to healer mana in PvP, nerfing every single class down significantly in an effort to keep games at a more reasonable length, you'd be surprised by the lack of outrage over it, especially as the post might as well have just read a PvP error allowing discipline priests to take part in raided arena has been hotfixed. There will now be no discipline priests in raided PvP, lol. Can you tell Tally helps write this show, by the way? But I think after the week we've all had, the community is at a point where getting too upset over something like this would just feel crass and unnecessary.
No, it was a shit show. Obviously. Blizz, what are you doing? Beyond pathetic. I hope you read my super mad reply. You're stupid, Blizzard. Jesus Christ, doesn't make any sense. Saying you're stupid is not enough. The people who made these changes should have been fired.
Okay, we're back to demanding sackings. That didn't take long. Welcome back, boys. Honestly, I think today we've earned some serious looking at cool stuff time, which we are going to supplement with some listening to cool stuff time too, because Wowhead have data mined the allied race music for Zandalari trolls and Kul Tiran humans. Every allied race apart from High Mountain have their own specially arranged theme music that you can barely ever hear in game. It's great, and it's all predictably wonderful, but some of the Kul Tiran stuff manages to be quite unusual in its general feel and instrumentation. That makes Tally go all misty-eyed and start banging on about Hiraith. Look it up. And yeah, it's great. I mean, it sounds like someone was trying to remember the music from the Shire in the Hobbit movies, but couldn't quite remember it, but that's great! It's awesome how British and folky the Kul Tirans are. Like, I know that a lot of Americans don't quite appreciate the breadth of regional UK accents they have, and the other little details everywhere, but I promise you, as the proud owner of a British person myself, the Brits really dig all that stuff. Which is why we're all a bit disappointed by the dances so far. Look, we don't usually do segments looking at, like, flirt lines or things like this, usually, but the Kul Tiran male dance is the Mr. Thickman dance, which is fine, I get it, but why isn't it a Morris dance? No, not a Maurice dance, a Morris dance. We could have had a West Country accented, coat-wearing, Morris dancing bear boy in WoW here, Blizz. This was your one and only chance to make it happen. This dance could have been all hankies and bells and hobby horses and whatever the hell else all that stuff is about, but instead you reference a video which I'm sure is very funny and culturally significant, but I wouldn't know because we can't even watch it in this country. Ah well, at least we have the Kul Tiran female doing like 3 seconds of ballet, or the Zandalari trolls doing, you know, we might come back to the dances at a later date to see if they've made any changes. On to mounts though, and we were thinking of putting a spoiler warning here, but it feels pointless. This is all pretty standard stuff. When you complete the 8.1.5 war campaign on both Horde and Alliance, you are awarded an achievement called Two Sides to Every Tale, which has 2 mount rewards, a Horde-style wolf in Alliance colors, and an Alliance horse in Horde colors. When the Alliance wolf was first data mined a week ago, we all thought this was going to be Sourfang's new Alliance steed to carry him into battle alongside his beloved King Anduin, and I guess that could still turn out to be true further down the line, even if that would be especially weird for Gen. But it raises another interesting thought. These mounts in this achievement do suggest a full stop of sorts to the war campaign at the end of 8.1.5, hinting that maybe the story in patch 8.2 is going to be a lot less focused on the faction conflict. Speaking of mounts though, there was mass excitement around the community when WoW had dug up some encrypted sound physics, and skin files for an Alpaca NPC, which they speculated could mean an alpaca mount appearing in game soon. And you know what that means? Vulpera allied race! Wow, we got there really quick, didn't we? But that's just how we think now. In reality, the sound files are all attack noises, which you wouldn't expect to be associated with a mount. That's usually an NPC thing, but then the names could just be a fake out. Blizz usually use encrypted files in the PTR to hide important story details, so maybe this has nothing to do with alpacas at all. Or maybe these sound files are all the voice lines from the Vulpera allied race unlock scenario. Who knows? We'll be keeping our eye on this one. We got our first look at the loot tables for the 8.1.5 Crucible of Storms mini-raid, which answers the question, how do you make players excited for 2 bosses worth of loot, which is the same item level as this stuff from the other raid they just did the patch before? By giving all that loot cool, unique, passive, or on-use effects, of course. Yes, every single piece of gear from this mini-raid has a unique effect associated with it, with loot from the Restless Cabal being mostly healing-based effects, and drops from Unat, the Harbinger of the Void, taking a much darker approach, with beneficial effects that can also have a downside, like Grips of Forsaken Sanity, which deal additional damage to your target and you when you're above 90% health, Malformed Herald's Leg Wraps, which give you a haste buffing pool to stand in, which explodes and damages you when you leave it, Harbinger's Inscrutable Will, which launches a Void Spear at your target but then rebounds back at you so that you have to dodge your own DPS ability, or Lurker's Insidious Gift, which will increase your mastery by over 1000 for 30 seconds, but will also inflict damage, meaning that you have to remember to turn it off again or it will kill you. This is all really fun and powerful and interesting and kind of what loot should be like most of the time, if we're honest, and it's cool that there seems like a real reason to be going into this mini raid and getting this stuff, even if it's not an eye level upgrade. Loads of these items have really cool visual effects too, which WoW have covered below. And we'll be linking that article and anything else relevant down below.
Well, that was a shitty week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was really bad and really
best, was
sad.
it?
Like on Tuesday night, as we were just sitting in bed, like looking at our phones as all this shit was going down, like in the US. And it was just really horrible, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't a great week, but I hope this is okay.
Yeah.
Is this okay?
I mean, yeah, this is weird, isn't it? Because it's like, this isn't what we want to talk about on like a show like this, and partly because we don't want it to happen, obviously, but also because like this is just meant to be a fun show where we talk about like fun stuff. But you can't ignore something like this, especially because, like, as I say, so many people that we would consider like friends have been literally fired from not fired because I don't care what people say when they're trying to be angry. There is a difference between being made redundant and fired. Like, there's a massive difference. It's still shit. Even like last night, we're getting messages from people that were affected by this, and it's weird because they all work for, obviously, like community development. Because those are the people we know at Blizzard, because those are the people we've had a lot of contact with. So it feels like it's all the community people that have been cut, whereas it's been a lot more than that as well.
And it's really tough because those are the people that, you know, we've built relationships with and who reached out to us, you know, way back when, and we're like, hey, we like what you're doing. Whoa.
Yeah.
You know?
It's official. There's no one left at Blizzard who likes what we're doing.
No.
Maybe that's what did it. Maybe they were literally like,
Get
let's
rid of all of the TNA fans.
It's like, there's only one thing to do here, guys. We have to get rid. And if that's the case, I'm sorry.
I highly doubt there are 800 people who watch TNA.
I've seen our t-shirt sales. There's not. Yeah, these incredible people, and it's definitely Blizzard's loss. That they're no longer there, because, you know, we talk about how the dev teams are increasing and stuff like that, and how that's going to help the games actually be made, but WoW definitely is so much more than actual, like, the minute-to-minute gameplay. It's about the community, and it's about, like, the other people doing this incredibly passionate work around that makes it so special. And I feel like that's something Blizzard has always really appreciated, which is why it's so worrying that...
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I think there are games that are better than World of Warcraft. From like a...
Whoa, hang on. What game is better than World of Warcraft? Don't say Yoshi's Island. I know that's what you're going to say.
Okay, better as in maybe more like visually like beautiful.
What
Technically
game is
more delivered.
What game is better? Give me one single game that has a better thing than the hippo.
No, you're right. I take it back.
There is no in-game asset in this world as good as the hippo, and I stand by it. I'll die on that big round roly-poly hill. I don't care.
Anyway, what I was trying to say was that the community is one of WoW's greatest assets.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist in a way for a lot of other games out there. So seeing that kind of being affected...
Devalued in a way.
Yeah, devalued is a good word for it, is troubling.
I hope that in giving our opinion about that in this video, my main hope is that it didn't upset anyone who was involved in this, personally, because I know that the last thing you guys need is another hot take, another person giving their own spin on it, and you know, like making money off it. Let's not lie, as well, and that must be really hard. And I'm sorry if it came across like that. We tried very hard not to make it like that, and I feel extra guilty because actually, this sounds horrible. This sounds so horrible to say. I've had a really good time playing WoW this week. Oh, it's so horrible.
It's been a really fun week,
we've had like a really good
in-game.
raid week.
Yeah.
We've been like killing bosses. We've been having loads of fun. We've been raiding at like doing our official heroic raids and like non-official like normal raids and stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm jumping in like literally anytime someone asks me because I'm enjoying it so much.
Yeah. I'm leveling my mage.
You are leveling a mage, aren't you?
Yeah.
It was funny because we logged in the other night into our guild and there were like 20 mages online.
Literally.
Like everyone in our guild
Just
has
blew.
just like re-rolled to mage for some
Yeah, but they're
reason.
all alts of all of our raid team who have like seen our mage in raid.
That are
and
rocking
been like,
it. Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna do.
It's really funny. So how are you doing with your mage? What mage are you playing?
I love it. She's really sweet. She is a frost mage.
Yeah. All the cool kids well, that's a bit of a pun I didn't mean. All the cool kids are frost at the moment. It's a fact. But you usually go arcane though, don't you?
Yeah, I like arcane, but it's feeling a little bit like ponderous at the moment.
It's ponderous, isn't it?
I'm not feeling the rhythm of it.
I feel like arcane is like whereas frost is like
Spam, 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 spam.
and that's the class guide done.
Yeah.
8.15 class guide done right there. Like print it, it's gone, put it out, million views.
Okay.
I'm actually leveling fire at the moment.
No way.
Yeah, so we got all bases covered is what I'm
Nice,
saying. Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Fire and ice.
Oh yeah. I also started a shaman. An alliance shaman, because obviously I've got horde shaman, but now we're getting apparently like character slots increased on one server.
Right.
I can afford to have one of each class for horde and alliance. So I'm leveling a shaman on alliance, and my plan is I want a Kul Tiran shaman, obviously, because they're awesome, like a Tide Sage and cool accent and lackluster dance. And I was thinking, well, I want to get started leveling that. You know, I don't care about the heritage armor and stuff like that. So I'll wait. I don't want to wait. I'm going to start, and I used my BfA boost on a Draenei shaman, so I can just start from 110 and get that going, and then I'll race change him later on. But the thing is, he's awesome, my Draenei shaman.
I saw.
He's so good.
cute.
He's so cute because I've never really had time for Draenei males before because I've always had them as like warriors or paladins or something.
Yeah.
And it just because that's what it feels like they should be because they're so big and round.
Yeah.
But as a caster, as a shaman. Oh man, he's so great. His totems are incredible, and he's all like,
Yeah, it's like
he's
his
so
animation.
round. He's so perfectly round and blue. And what more could you ask for? Well, it's a well-known fact on this channel. We adore things which are round.
Yeah.
We like the
We just
rounder it
do.
is, the
It's-
better.
Yeah.
Bring on the round. In fact, patrons, we got a new round strong thing to show you, which we'll definitely be doing.
Do you remember when we went to like Cleveland and you bought a little like space monkey that was perfectly round?
Yeah, he was so round. Where is he? Did we lose him in the move?
No, we haven't.
Oh, okay, good.
He's safe.
Do you think he's on Mars? Just like, it's getting dark and my batteries are low.
Oh, that was another sad thing this week.
Do you know what? I've pretty much forgotten all the bad stuff already. Like all those people that we said were our friends at Blizzard, I've forgotten them. I've forgotten their names already.
Same.
So next week it will be really funny. Absolutely. We haven't forgotten your names, don't worry. But thank you for joining us this week. If you did enjoy this episode, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who give their actual real life money to make these videos happen. Oh, patrons, we will get that Q&A done this week, which you've been far too busy for this week. Last week. You were busy last week, but we're going to get it done. We're going to get it. Yeah, I know you were sick. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Caden House.
And I'm David Gradell.
No, my name is Taliesin from me.
And me, Evitel.
Until next time, cheerio.